Hello, friends. I'm quite sorry that I've not been able to have this class for some time now. It's because I've been actually very busy. The past 1 week has been very busy for me, so I've not been able to settle down and come up with something. I know that in our last class, I promised that we are going to dig deeper into the concepts of defamation as it relates to the media. It's a very significant aspect of the media law that as media people or as people who have interest in the media, whichever divide you belong to, it's very key that you have an understanding of what defamation is. And what I know for sure is that defamation is not a term that is not familiar. I mean, it's a term that we are all very familiar with. If you are a Nigerian and you live in Nigeria, recently you would have heard of the defamation case between activist Dele Farutimi and a prominent lawyer, Are Afe Babalola, over what Dele Farutimi said about him in a book which he published. And of course, Afe Babalola did not find it funny and had to take it up against him as defamation. So, if that could happen to a lawyer, if a lawyer could be charged for defamation, how much more a journalist who writes almost every day? And a lot of times you have occasion to write stories and reports against certain persons. And at times when we write, we don't even know that some of these actions constitute defamation or where to even draw the lines. Of course, I wouldn't be referring to experienced journalists in this case or experienced media people, because anybody who is really experienced in the media profession would know exactly where to draw the line as far as the issue of defamation is concerned. So let's dig a bit deeper and talk about defamation in this particular class today. What constitutes defamation in the first place? What exactly is defamation? Now, defamation is a term that you have in both the criminal code and the penal code. Now, it is not my place to start defining to you what the criminal code and the penal code are, but it's something you can do for yourself. Just check it up out to understand the meanings of both criminal and penal code. But there are aspects of our laws which are used for criminal actions or alleged criminal actions. Now, these two codes I just mentioned clearly define or clearly state occasions where a statement could be referred to as defamation. And of course, the condition precedents for any of such statements, write-up, publications, as it were, to be called defamation. Okay? If you check the Penal Code section 391 and 392, you will find clearly how defamation is defined. And then you also check the Criminal Code section 375, I think, and 376 clearly states what constitutes, defamation. But now that is even going deeper into the law proper. But what we do in this particular class is to perhaps look at it from the surface and give us an idea which will guide us and perhaps trigger us to explore further, to read further and to research further into some of these things. That's the whole essence of this particular class that we have. The bottom line of these codes is that for you to refer to a publication as defamation, there are certain criteria that must be met. One of those criteria is that the publication in question must have reached a third party. Okay? It must have reached a third party. It has to be false. Okay? It has to be false. It has to be proven to be false. It has to be damaging in terms of your reputation, in terms of your relationships, in terms of your business, in terms of your career. It must have damaging effects. It must also make members of the public to shun you. In other words, to keep you at arm's length, because of the perception of your personality and your person based on that publication. Okay? Now I mentioned that it must be published. In other words, there must be a third party. What that means is that if I write anything damaging about you and that thing has not got to a third party, a third person has not seen it, okay, it means that no element of defamation could be said to have occurred. Okay? It's like perhaps I write you a letter, or I send you a stinker via mail or text, okay, calling you all manner of names, whether they are true or not, but have not sent that to a third party. At least you cannot prove that a third party has got hold of it. Then defamation has not taken place by law. So for you to say that you have been defamed, it means that whatever it is that you are accusing me of defaming you with or of must have reached a third party, even if it's just one person, and you must prove it. And one way to prove it in court is to mention the name of that person that got that defamatory material. Okay? Now, that's one. I also talked about damage. It must have caused you damage to your relationship, to your friendship, to your business, to your career, to everything that makes you a responsible citizen in the society. It must have caused some well-defined, tangible damage to you for it to pass as defamation. It must also be malicious. Okay? And now there are occasions where you never even deliberately intended to defame somebody. You could still be charged for defamation. Okay? For instance, if you were to do a fiction, by fiction we mean not using real human beings, using fictitious names, personalities, and all of that. And it happens that those fictitious names and personalities match with somebody known, and that person assumes that the fiction is about him or her, is in line with his or her situation. Such a person can claim damages on the basis of defamation. Of course, there are ways of settling this in the court and all of that. So I'm just trying to open your eyes to what defamation could be like. And then we have two major ways that defamation can occur, either written or verbal. Okay? The written form, in any form that is written, when defamation is said to have happened and it is written in a written form, is referred to as libel, which is believed to be the more grievous, even though the second one, which is verbal, is equally, in some cases, treated as such, provided there is evidence. And that is called slander. When you defame somebody verbally, for instance, you are on radio and probably you are an analyst or a guest or even a presenter, and you say something verbally that is not scripted against somebody, that amounts to slander. Okay, provided the person can prove based on some of the conditions I gave earlier. But if it is scripted, for instance, you are reading the news, okay, or reading the script for a program, and it is categorically written, clearly written, stipulated about that person, then that becomes libel. Okay, so this is how to differentiate between the two. You have slander and you have libel. This is how you get to know the difference between defamation and slander. And there is so much more to the two of them. Like I said, you don't necessarily need to do it deliberately. Once there is proof that defamation has occurred, automatically you go in for it. So I think we need to put it on hold here today. In our next class, God willing, we will go into the various defenses to defamation. That means as a journalist, because our job requires that we write every day, we speak every day. One way or the other, you might just fall a victim of defamation, or you might become guilty of defamation if discretion is not applied. As a matter of fact, it happens every day. It's just that most people who are defamed either did not get the message or just decide to forgo, or they didn't really make anything out of it. So that is why, as a media person, you have to be very careful, and you must have knowledge of these things just to serve as a guide for you when you are doing your stories and everything that has to do with your profession. Hopefully, in our next class, we'll dig deeper and talk about the various defenses to defamation. Meaning that if you defame or if you are accused of defamation, how would you justify your publications? Okay, so those are the defenses to defamation. We are going to take them one after the other in the next class. Thank you so much for being part of this class today. As always, do help to share this And of course, if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, I urge you to do so, so that you can also be following these videos each time they pop up on this particular channel. I'm talking about Coach Pius Media Class. Thank you so much.